thank you all for joining. I see a lot of familiar faces, familiar names here. So really, thank you guys for joining. I really appreciate it. Today, I am joined by Kenichi from esure, and we'll be talking about the securing their digital transformation at esure with Semgrep. With Semgrep. Just to get started, I'd like to introduce my my guest today, Kenichi. Kenichi is an innovative DevSecOps leader at esure. He's been doing AppSec, architecting, optimizing cloud infrastructures and security solutions for over a decade now. Worked with Kenichi closely for almost a year now, and I know he's kind of at the cutting edge practices of software development and security. He is recognized throughout the industry through his speaking engagements as well. He's spoken at AWS, QCon, Cloud Expo Europe, and he's also the author of the Cloud Native Monitoring and Cloud Native Observability books on O'Reilly Media. So thank you so much for joining us today here, Kenichi. We really appreciate your time and the ability, the opportunity to chat with you about your experiences with AppSec, the intersection of SAST and AI, as well as a little bit about Semgrep. I think most of the people here on the call know me, but for those who I haven't talked to in the past, I'm Nitin. I'm a staff solutions engineer here with Semgrep, based out of London, working with most of our European customers, and been with the company 3 years and really excited to be here talking with Kenichi as well. So let's get started. Just a quick note, we want to keep this interactive, make sure we keep posting your questions in the Q&A and the chat bar. And what I'll do is at the end of, at strategic points in the presentation, we will take a pause and look at some of those questions. So please keep those questions coming in. Kenichi is a very technical, hands-on guy. So I'm sure, he'll be able to share a lot of the details around how he's kind of gone about this as well. So but let's get started. So before we kind of jumped into AppSec and AI, I wanted to kind of just take a step back and maybe ask Kenichi a little bit about, who esure is, what do they do, etc. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about Kenichi about that, please.
Yeah, sure. So esure is a home and motor insurance provider based south of England. We have 2.1 million customers now. We have an engineering stack of, like said there, around 200 devs. With very modern tech stack, so we migrated from legacy insurance platform solution to EIS and cloud. Everything is AWS, Kubernetes, cloud native, everything agile, etc. Because we're an insurer, we are heavily regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority within the UK. However, we are very much digital first, digitally focused insurer. So that means things like MTA there, mid-term adjustment, everything that you can see in that app that we recently launched last month is all available digitally. So you can see you can get your MOT there, your services, even your car taxes. You can pretty much do everything in the app now, even pay for airport parking, airport drop-offs, tolls, everything. So we pretty much embrace the whole app and cloud native space within the insurance space.
And I think that's really good context here, because I'm looking at the names of the folks here, especially the ones I've worked with, and I see a lot of commonness in terms of being tech first, dev first, innovative, cutting edge, be it in HR, be it in finance, be it in advertising, be it in security, be it even in cars, etc. Right? So really, really useful context, and hopefully everybody finds this helpful. The next question, which I always ask people is, what's the context behind esure last year going to the market to look at a new SaaS solution? What were you guys thinking? What were the key trends you were thinking, which kind of drove that kind of decision internally to say, hey, we need to look at more modern technologies, etc., from an AppSec perspective?
Yeah, so we did this whole digital transformation from data center to cloud only, and then from legacy phone and manual work to everything digital and cloud now. So that really shifted our threat landscape from, people coming into the office and stealing a bunch of papers to like actually penetrating the network and getting things from an API call. However, there is this new change as well. So as on top of the digital changes that we've done, we're also like facing AI, as many of you know, everybody's probably using ChatGPT these days. Like 3 years ago when it was launched, you see the sophistication of attacks becoming more and more difficult to control. So it used to be to create like a 0 day would take a malware as a service, for example, like anything between 1 to 6 months. Now, if you have a code and you ask a bad LLM model to say, can you create like a 0 day attack? Can you find vulnerabilities in this piece of code? You can see like really sophisticated attacks coming out of there. And at the same time, there's also like this problem in our job market where you got really less skills, meaning you get less skilled people in the market, and there's just not a lot of people who knows AppSec in particular. And finally, the biggest factor probably is we can see that a lot of security in AppSec before is just source SCA, right? You literally just like look at the libraries that this application is relying on. Don't really know if that's being used or not, and also like you don't know how it's being used. So this is the threat landscape we see ourselves now. You got AI, you got skills gap, and you got this old black box of code issue. And since we've gone cloud native, our tech stack has become really complicated. So basically, you got containers, you got cloud, you got load balancers, you got ingresses, everything. So it's not just here's a front door and here's Apache and run it. It's no longer the case anymore, right? Everything's kind of like architected for eventual consistency as well. So that's what we face right now, and this is why we need a new solution.
Thanks, Kenichi. Very nice. And I mean, I can relate to that, kind of talking to a lot of our customers as well on a daily basis. Similar kind of changes happening everywhere, which is great. So let's actually jump into that. And I know one of the questions which always comes up, especially when I'm talking with prospects, is, hey, I'm going to bring in SAST. Is it going to slow down my developer velocity? And I know this was one thing that you guys were also very, very cautious about, both from your side. I'm even in the POV, we worked with your dev teams as well, getting involved. And one of the themes always was, hey, how are we improving security without slowing down the feature velocity of our developers? How do you think Semgrep has kind of helped esure in addressing that balance? How did you make sure that as you roll out Semgrep, you were able to give that balance of security without slowing down developers at esure?
Yeah, so I mean, what you can see in the screen is how we actually do the SDLC lifecycle, right? The way we did it is basically from left to right, you can see we injected Semgrep in the beginning. So either in IDE or in the source code within a pull request. I think the reason why a lot of velocity of feature releases are quite slow is because developers don't really see the feedback right away. What you tend to see happening is they release a feature and then a security scan happens, and then after a week of that feature being in prod, you realize, oh, we need to actually fix that. And that actually is the one that's slowing down the velocity. Now, if you tell the devs while they're building things, while they're building features, their IDE or their CLI or in their GitHub pull requests right away, chances of them of you slowing them down, actually getting it's reduced, right? So what ends up happening is the developers know that this is going to be problem in prod. They fix it before it even gets to prod, right? And with the Semgrep Pro, for example, in AI, they even tell you how to fix the problem. That even speeds them up even a bit more. So the combination of AI and early feedback with regards to how codes are pushed and scanned, that really gives you like that velocity. The policies as well, the way we handle policies, what we do is we go at the same speed as the developers. Basically, each time that a developer would introduce a new bug, we would then look at the policies associated with that, saying, do we need to introduce a new policy here while they're doing it? So we're basically doing dev work the same as dev, but we're doing it from the point of view that our products are their code. So basically, the rules, the policies that we push is the product that we are giving to them, while their product is obviously the feature within our app. So that's massive shift left. This is not even shift left, because if you think about the CI, right? The CI runs after code is merged. This is running in parallel with the CI, so it's even faster. You can see it in the screen, right? So Jenkins runs at the same time as Swiss Data Scanner and Semgrep Cloud. Basically, before you even get to merge and somebody reviews that piece of code, before it's even introduced to the code base, you have all of these scans already. So that's fast feedback.
Brilliant. I think that's really important. I think what I saw with esure was that the ability to control that engagement with developers, including the policies, using the Pro engine, etc., was pretty phenomenal and very well respected and very well received by the devs as well. If anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A box. I will keep an eye on it from time to time. So happy to take them as well. I see one question. We'll talk about Wiz a little bit more, Pavel, towards the end. So maybe we take this then, because it's going to answer some of those things as well. So let me now jump in a little bit around the AI side.
Actually, Chris has a question on the IDE level. How are you ensuring Semgrep is adapted at the IDE level? Well, IDE is very personal to every single dev, right? So they have their own plugins, they have their own color scheme, they have their own even sometimes IDE, which is different from the rest of the business. So ensuring that is definitely just getting them to care about it, letting them know that like it's more of a carrot rather than a stick. What we're telling them is, if you have the IDE plugin, then before the scan even happens, then you would know what the scan says. It's having like a foresight into the future. That's how you encourage them. But that's all you can do, encourage them. You can't really go to their machine and then install the Semgrep plugin in the IDE. That would be a bit too much. But yeah, that's how we're doing it.
My apologies, Chris. I missed that. The UI is a little wonky for me, but good question. All right. So just continuing on here. I know one of the other things which was really interesting when we started our conversation last year, Kenichi, was you were looking for a feature forward solution, which was using healthy doses of AI. Do you want to talk a little bit about what capabilities on the AI side from Semgrep you liked? How do you guys use it? I know we've got a few slides to walk through it as well, but I'll let you start there.
Yeah, so let's be honest, there's like two of us within 200 devs. Analyzing all of the source code that they're writing on a daily basis is obviously not scalable, so we need some help. We as a team, we try to leverage the Pro engines as much as we could. However, there's a lot of times when you need to understand and you need to dig deeper, where inside the code itself, like do you know what this actual function is being used for? Sometimes you need to know that. And that's when this deterministic findings really help this AI as force multiplier. Basically, AI then tells you, is this function actually being used? If not, then probably this finding is a false positive. That auto triage thing, it really increases your velocity because it tells you, oh, okay, this function is very vulnerable as a SQL injection, but we analyze the rest of the source code and this function's not being used anywhere. I'm like, great, let's ignore it and ask the devs to remove the function in the next pull request. And they tend to be receptive to that. Like, oh yeah, you're helping us secure our code and also telling us what's a bug in our code. Even better, if you raise a pull request for them, they would tend to just agree and they just merge it right away and like, or disagree if they're actually using the function. So that's amazing, right? That's superpower that you used to not have before. Well, that prioritization in auto triage AI really helps with that. The other final interesting factor is this whole idea of giving feedback to Semgrep. You can see here on the screen, you can see one of the devs is saying this route is it's a false positive because this specific function is not a bypass for avoiding a call out to microservice based on a feature. So basically, this is within a feature gate. This function is within a feature gate. So it's not really used unless that feature is actually actively being turned on. So they're saying it's a false positive. And because we're not allowing that feature in yet until we do a bit more, then what ends up happening is that's a false positive. So the dev says that to Semgrep. Semgrep then says, okay, from now on, anytime I see this queue data route being used, then we just ignore this detection unless it start with the direct :// because that means it's actually being called directly. So that's automatically an auto triage. Basically, it ignores 232 findings instantly. Just click on that and just accept it. 232 findings over. Now, if there's such a case where direct : / is actually being used, then obviously because Semgrep knows that it's not it's you shouldn't auto triage that, then it will actually flag it. So it gives you true positive that way. It reduces the noise of that bypass get route and increases the visibility of the actual findings, which is pretty awesome. And these are all done. That entire block of magic there that was generated by Semgrep from a single sentence written by the dev. This is pretty awesome, if you ask me.
Yeah, and this is one area where if you look at kind of some of the older generation SaaS tools, even if the dev was to give you some feedback, the engine doesn't adapt to it. The SaaS tool doesn't learn from it. And what's happening here is anytime a developer or an AppSec engineer spends any time with Semgrep, with everything, there's a cumulative increase in the fidelity in reducing noise to get you to that kind of zero false positives, which is tailored to your environment and there. So that's really good. And I think this was another example from Simon.
Yeah, so Simon is one of the devs in my team. Well, it's only two of us really, but basically he spoke to the developer on a specific finding. This is for server-side request forgery, and that is a Java Spring Framework app that takes the parameter of where the server is from AWS config map basically, and basically there's no user input. So when he added that, it says, okay, anything that started any servers that are parsed using that config map will automatically be recommending 87 of them, saying that those are trusted input because the users are actually not inputting data there. It's actually coming from our server that's inputted by our devs. So they're automatically a trusted input. So based on that, all of those server-side request forgery rules are now auto-triaged, which is pretty awesome. So that's a functionality within Spring where it just says the at value and taking that directly from the config map.
Brilliant, yeah. Again, yeah, Simon put in a reason here in the Semgrep UI saying, hey, this is the reason why it's acceptable risk, false positive, done, right?
Yeah, and then if you can see the paragraph there as well, he says something like config map, but he didn't elaborate anything on the Spring Boot and how the devs actually inject those parameters as data. But Semgrep automatically realized, oh, actually, it's either through the properties file or Spring at value, because Semgrep knows it's a Spring Boot application, and Simon didn't even know it was a Spring application. The devs just said that to him. So that was awesome, right?
Exactly. There's the context there. I see a question from Raman. Hey, Raman, I think is relevant here. So Raman's question is, assistant looks awesome. Thank you. Have the prompts been generated by Semgrep itself, or is this piece of operations you did in the team to add to update the policy? I can answer that if that's okay, Raman. It's so all that was done here by Simon or by the dev was to give us a reason on the false positive. And then the Semgrep assistant automatically translates that into this instruction, which will now be used on your backlog as well as in your future findings automatically. So this, what you see here, treat a URL, this has been generated by Semgrep assistant. This reason which was given here as part of the process of marking something as a false positive, which most of your developers should anyways be doing. If they mark something as false positive, they should give you a good reason as to why it is, was coming from here. So that's kind of the process of how it works. And then you have the ability to say, hey, do you want to apply it to all the rules, specific category of rules, or a single rule? Do you want to apply it to all your projects or a specific project? And that's how it's set up. So that's kind of the process there. Make sense? I think there's a question from Guru. By the way, thank you guys for all the questions. It's great. Guru, hey, good to catch up again. Maybe this one, Kenichi, for you. Does your security team perform false positive analysis, or does your dev have access to the platform and their respective repos? So I guess we showed one example here where the dev did the false positive and one which is your team, but I don't know, Kenichi, if you want to talk about the process internally.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of both, really. So what we do, so all pull requests are scanned by Semgrep, and Semgrep automatically provides feedback after a minute, I believe. So that goes through a scanning process. Every comment is added to the PR, as you can see from the earlier slide. And then there is a link there going from GitHub to the platform. So you just literally click on this finding, yeah, that specific one, and it sends you back to the platform. So then you can find more details there, including like how you want to do this. Usually if there's like a piece of code that Semgrep's recommending, it will be in GitHub. Otherwise, it will be in the Semgrep platform itself. We do a bit of both. So every Monday, Simon and myself would take 2 hours, 3 hours within our day just to look at all of the high confidence findings. So the high confidence, high and criticals. So we look at all of them. So basically, we let the agent, the assistant, loose on all of the findings, and then it tells us the high confidence ones that are that it thinks are false positive. So you can see here in the second one, assistant thinks this is true positive. So the reason why Simon looked at this is because we think it's true, or assistant thinks that it's true positive. So therefore, we've gone through the extra mile of figuring things out and talking to the devs. Tend not to use this a lot because there's two of us, there's 200 devs. So we try to leverage the developers' time as much as we could, because otherwise we will never finish. We will just spend our entire week just going through every single finding, because this is gonna be quite a lot, even though there's so that the confidence level, I don't think we've discussed the confidence level, but basically assistant provides you a confidence level of high, medium, and low. So if you have a high confidence, critical, and high, that for us is a concern. However, if you're not, then that really just, yeah.
Got it. There's quite a few questions coming, so I love this. All right, so let's go back here. There's one from an anonymous attendee, which is, now you have successfully implemented Semgrep across various levels of development cycle. How have you found adoption from developers? Can you share any particular difficulties or success stories? Do you mind if we hold this to the end of the session? Because we might be covering some of these things, anonymous attendee, and we can come back to you towards the end. I think it's a really good question to close out with, if that's okay. I'll take that as a yes. All right. All right, so let's go. Sufyan here asks, hey, Kenichi. Sufyan, hey, by the way. Hey, good to see you. Thanks for the talk. My question, how do you tackle these two issues related to AI triage? One is around sensitive data leaks, like secrets. Second is adoption resistance from techs for different reasons we all know.
Yeah, so the first question on the sensitive data like secrets, this is actually funny because when we adopted Semgrep, one of the features that we started using immediately was secrets findings. So in Semgrep, you have like code, you have secrets, and you have SCA. So you have to turn them individually, turn them on individually. So when we turn on the secrets, there is a way for you to actually block all of the secrets from coming into PRs, which is awesome because we tell everybody that we shouldn't have secrets in GitHub, but a lot of times people, we're all humans, we make mistakes, sometimes they. And what you find, this is quite an interesting process, is when their PRs get blocked, the first thing obviously is frustration. Why is it getting blocked? And then they look at the findings and they realize, oh, I actually accidentally committed a key. And they're thankful for that, right? So they would close the branch, delete the branch, do it again. That's pretty awesome. And you don't see that in a lot of cases, in a lot of organizations I worked for, because frankly, the scanners are not up to scratch, but this one's actually pretty good. And we're scanning it in two places. So we're scanning it in Semgrep, we're scanning it in Wiz. None of your secrets will go through, basically. We're blocking it in both places. So yeah, the adoption resistance, it's always going to be a problem in most anything you adapt. What I would say to that is make sure you do a lot of demos. You have to tell your dev, similar to what we're doing now, why you're doing this to begin with. What is the landscape? What are the new threats coming into place? Why now? Basically, why should we adopt a new tech? We already have a tech that's been running well for us in the last 10 years. Why change? And tell you you have to specifically state what the problem is, and then you have to convince pretty much each level of the board. You start from basically you need your CISO, who I directly report to convince the board, and then you have to convince your level, your leads, your engineering squads. You have to do a lot of demos. You have to do a lot of question and answer, and then you have to be just be open and transparent to what it can and can't do. But basically, you have to be a salesperson internally as well. You have to sell it to your team, because otherwise you don't get adoption. If you don't get adoption, then this is dead in the water. And you can see by how much triaging and how much finding we're doing that we're actually been quite successful at selling this, internally at least. So that's how you do it, I think. Different organizations have different bureaucracy as well. So you just have to learn the lay of the land and figure out your way across some of the resistance. Some of the resistance are probably not even related to the tech itself, probably related to your organization and talking to the right people. Sometimes it just talks about, sometimes it's all just talking to and convincing the right person, and then the resistance goes away. It depends. That's my answer.
Chris, Kirill, we'll come to your question in 1 second. I thought this would be interesting in terms of Sufyan, so one of the things we also do in the platform now is we actually show the impact. And with Assistant, you have two types of capability. One is the fixes, the other one is removing false positives. And so this is actually one of the things you do is once you enable the assistant, you will start seeing a lot of the findings just because of the business context getting auto triaged as false positive. And this is something which typically those developers and the like, because it's reducing their work for them, right? And I don't know, Kenichi, you want to talk a little bit about kind of the impact that assistant and memories has had in terms of reducing false positives, automatically reviewing your findings, etc., and how it's kind of helped grow this. But this might also be related, I think, Sufyan, to your question around how to get over that adoption resistance internally in terms of the AI. So I don't know, Kenichi, you want to talk to this slide?
Yeah, I think so. Let me put it this way: Semgrep already has a good, really good engine. It has good bones already. So what assistant does is it goes above and beyond what Semgrep already has and sticks into it. So basically, all of the low and medium and all of the categorizations already done by Semgrep, even before assistance already good. That reduces a lot of the false positive findings. So what assistant does above and beyond what Semgrep already does as an engine is adding that layer of analysis. And that's when these memories and things you've done before, basically it learns as you kind of teach it. As you give it like a reason why you make. So this is really important, by the way. This is a really, really important point. When you ignore something, or when you analyze something, or when you say we're fixing this or we're not fixing this, you have to give assistant some good reasons why. It doesn't have to be more than a couple of sentences, but anything that you point towards, the assistant will learn from. So if you give it bad feedback, it will give you bad feedback. It's like any AI engine, right? But yeah, what we got really good at is giving it, this is why it's not a problem, or this is why it's a problem, and also like how we fix things. And it learns from your repo as well. So for example, it learns that you have a library that does the initial parsing of things. It learns all of that, which is good. You can see it also suggests things are false positive. I mean, it thinks it's false positive, so it doesn't put it in the high category. So you still have to do it from time to time. What we found that it got really good at is we got around 204 something high confidence, high findings that we were able to reduce to 12 just by analyzing everything that it gave us, plus some very, very small analysis on our part. So basically, what would take us a couple of months to analyze and do, it took us, a week, because we only had to analyze like 10% of what we would typically do. So that reduced 204 from 204 to 12 findings. Obviously, we write tickets for each one of those findings. We talk to each one of the devs saying this is a problem. And the other good thing about that is it tells you what the solution is. So when the devs come to us, they don't ask us what the solution is. It actually is in the ticket. So it's just a matter of them finding the time to actually implement that solution, because the recommended solution 9 out of 10 works great. And that's coming from assistant. The triage effort really is really fantastic. It really helps you out. There's only 2 of us in the team who actively are doing it, as well as one junior engineer. We are overwhelmed by the sheer amount until we started using this more.
That's brilliant, Kenichi. I'll take the question now from Chris, kind of related to developer velocity. So how are you ensuring the PR comments aren't becoming a blocker to dev velocity? Is the security team actively monitoring failures from Semgrep? Are you leveraging security champions? This is in context of PR comments in blocking mode.
Yeah, we are leveraging security champions. We have a security champions community. We run it last year. We run it this year again. We're gonna run it again next year. What we're basically doing is we're getting devs to help out each other. So basically, we got principal engineers, we got leads who do within that space of that community. What you see them doing is when there's like a finding that is quite bad, usually that finding is like across multiple repos and multiple squads, because devs learn from each other. They tend to use the same functions. They use the same, they tend to have the same mistakes, basically, because they talk to each other and help each other out. But you can leverage that because you have that community. What we tend to do, which we saw, one of our principal actually created a pull request in others repo, in another squad's repo, and then because he's already fixed the same problem in his repo, you can see the collaboration. It's actually quite fantastic. that's my answer to the security champions question, and that's really helpful actually, because then we don't have to do the same thing over and over again. You have to solve one problem once, and then you have to tell the community how you solved it, and the community takes care of itself basically. You have to meet with them every so often uh, to keep that camaraderie alive, but otherwise it's all good. With regards to PR comments, so there are two things here. You get comments and you got blockers. So comments are basically here's what we think is a finding. It's not instantly going to be blocked. In Semgrep, you can tell the platform which policies you want blocked. So for example, I want you to block any AWS keys. So it will only block AWS keys. So you can go to that policy level and tell Semgrep which policies to block. For example, we're blocking SSR app issues. Now, any issues with that is basically sorry, any findings that are blocked are basically flagged to us. We typically we try not to block pull requests as much as possible. When a pull request is blocked, we know about it and we try to go to them before they even go to us, because we're saying, hey, we really need you to fix your code. Here's what we think you should do, kind of thing. And it's usually very positive, because we came to them rather than they came to us. They tend to have a good reaction to that. Oh, you actually saw that I was having problems with this. They tend to be more receptive if you're coming to them for help, to help them, rather than them asking for you to help. That's it's a matter of 5 minutes difference between them messaging you and you messaging them, but it builds that kind of like, oh, I don't want to block you, but here's what I think you should do based on this finding. And that gets you up on a good start. And that's usually very helpful. But on the technical aspect, we just try not to block anything that's not critical and not high confidence and not critical. Right. All the high findings, we talk to them individually and try to fix that on their timeline. However, if it's high but we think it's critical, we upgrade that to critical. So that's how we do it.
Brilliant. And one related question before we go back to our Q&A is from Kirill. Hey, Kirill, good to see you again. Out of curiosity, have you done any internal metrics at the very beginning? Like, it would be insightful to see how this tandem of mean time to detection and mean time to resolution was changing over time. For example, time to triage on DevSecOps, POV before, after. And then there's a question around how devs trust AI assistant. I think we've already answered that. But I think the question is, either anecdotally or metrics wise, have you seen a difference in the mean time to detect or mean time to triage before and after with AI, without AI? I'm guessing is the question, Kirill, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we have, and you can actually see it on the dashboard. It goes, so when we turn it on, it was sky high, right? And then eventually you see this plateauing, and then you see the devs starting to fix things more. They proactively fix things, and then the time to detect is basically the time it takes for Semgrep to complete the scan. The mean time to respond is, if it's critical, then they respond immediately because their pull request is going to get blocked. Or if it's high, usually within the same sprint. Or if they're trying to do like a hot fix, they're going to do it in the next hot fix. So literally a couple of days or a week from now. So that really helps out from the time to triage kind of thing. Like doing it upfront within the pull request is actually very helpful, because what you see is a lot of working within the squad. So the engineer would talk to their leads, the leads would talk to us, kind of thing. What's happening, and why are you getting blocked? And it's this whole process of talking about, okay, what have you done? And then we do education as well, right? So Semgrep as a Semgrep Academy, sometimes if they're keen to learn more, what is SSRF? What is server-side request forgery? What does that actually mean? How can you exploit that? You send them that link and they learn more. So just by doing this, you kind of like develop that feedback loop of learning, and then that's part of education. I think it's just a lifelong process when when dealing with devs, right? You have to educate them, they have to educate you. It's a two-way street. You learn more about how the code is structured, and you learn more how we deploy stuff, but they learn more security from you. That's how it works.
Brilliant. I think we've talked about the remediation guidance, so I'm just going to skip over this and maybe go into the next section, which was when we started working with Kenichi, he warned us saying, "Hey, I have two types of problems. I have lots of very, very small microservices, and I have hundreds of very large mono repos, and I need a solution which can onboard it very, very quickly in mass without having to go add GitHub workflows, etc." Do you talk a little bit about that journey with us from a onboarding perspective, and some of the challenges that you had there?
Yeah, so I'm not gonna name any other vendors, but basically, a lot of other vendors within this space expect you to run your own runners or GitHub runners or Jenkins runners or whatever it is. Um, that's that's fine, but it's an additional cost on top of what you're already paying for. So it's a bit difficult. And obviously you have to make sure that the runners are sized and appropriate to whenever you're scanning. Now, what Semgrep did when we onboarded, or what Nitin did for us with Semgrep, is he helped us figure out what's the right setting for our organization. The right setting is basically the amount of CPU and memory that's required to scan our monorepos and microservices. We have a lot of microservices; those are easy. But having a single infrastructure that handles both 200 monorepos that are quite massive, they're very big. And there is one that's, I would call, a giga repo, because it has a bunch of monorepos within this giga repo. And scanning that basically is impossible to pretty much everything. I think Nathan did a whole bunch of pricing that he has to customize in order to scan that thing. I can tell us more about it later, but what would take us a couple of months to onboard took us a week because of that, because it's all managed by Semgrep. It really helped us. We literally just create a GitHub app and then talk to Nathan and have him figure out the rest is how we did it. The other thing we did is when we are scanning every single pull request, we just implemented GitHub branch protection. Basically, we want to run every pull request against Semgrep. So this should be like a Semgrep check mark before you can merge a PR, a pull request. If you can't scan Semgrep for whatever reason, because you're doing if your scan failed for whatever reason because you're committing secrets or whatever, then obviously you can't merge a pull request. Because in GitHub we're restricting every single commits to main without a pull request, basically you can't commit to main. So it's kind of like you need a pull request to commit, and you need Semgrep in order to create a pull request. You need to pass Semgrep. So that's basically, now we have like 100% scan completion rate, because everything goes through a pull request and everything is scanned. It's not just improved, it's totally changed the landscape. It's 100%. So the legacy scanning was very legacy, meaning the old services that we're using. It was very much a hit and a miss. Sometimes the webhook will not run, and then we have to check our backend in our infrastructure what's happening. It's just a hit and a miss. And sometimes people are rushing and they didn't even check if it was scanned or not. So things like that. So this just worked for us. GitHub app and managed scanning just worked for us really well. But yeah,
I mean,
do you want to talk us about that giant monorepo that took ages?
This was pretty interesting. So we talked to Kenichi and he said, hey, one of the things, and I think most of you on the call have heard us say, one of the things where we really differentiate ourselves. I mean, I see Patrick, we did the same thing for you guys. I see Sujendra here as well. For any of the mono repos, what we do is so Kenichi's like, yeah, we have this mono giga repo. Nobody's been able to scan it, I don't think you'll be able to do it. And so
Can't even clone it in my machine.
I was like, hold my beer. And so we have this capability called distributed scanning, where one of the things that Semgrep engine is capable of doing is it's running parallel scans. So instead of running a single scan, you can actually parallelize the scan. And so what we do with distributed scanning is we will dedicate a cluster of 8 machines, 12 machines, 16 machines, and each of those machines will have like, say, 4 virtual CPUs and say 96 gigs of RAM. So something which would have taken, say, theoretically 10 hours to scan, now because you're running it on 12 machines in parallel, it essentially becomes like 30, 45 minutes. So that's what we did for Kenichi. So this is something that, we did that for a lot of the mono repos. I know we've done this for quite a few people here as well. But that's kind of the main thing there, is being able to give you that flexibility and that coverage for those mono repos, which can be very, very important as well. So that was kind of the story there. Yeah, I see a question from Mubashir. Hey, Mubashir, how you doing? I can answer this. So today, esure is only using Semgrep for SAST. So they don't use Semgrep for SAST. They use Wiz for SCA. So I'm guessing the licensing. I don't know, Kenichi, how are you guys doing license enforcement? Is it in Wiz or is it using open source, or how are you guys doing it?
Yeah, we're using Wiz for that one.
Yeah, that's the yeah. So right now the focus from Kenichi and esure was on the SaaS product. Any other questions from the team around the managed scanning before we kind of jump a little bit into the broader ecosystem discussion? All right, so let's jump into this, and I think, Pavel, this would be a good one to answer your question around Wiz as well. So Kenichi, one of the things that you mentioned to us was, hey, very important for us is to choose a product which was API first, which was extensible, because you don't want it to be, you do not want it to be stuck in the data to be stuck inside Semgrep. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you guys have looked about the integrations? I know we'll talk a little bit about Wiz, then we'll also talk about your internal dashboard as well, but you talk a little bit about what you guys are doing with the Wiz integration today in terms of how it works, etc. Just a little bit more details.
Yeah, so Semgrep is the best in breed in SAST, hands down. That's my personal opinion. Don't at me, but and also we're in a Semgrep. I'm not gonna lie, but that's what I think. So we decided, okay, if we can get the best SaaS tool in the market with the best CNAP tool in the market and combine them, and if they talk to each other, that's gonna be even better. So Wiz is our CNAP tool. It runs our we run Wiz code on it. We run Wiz Defend on it. We run Wiz Cloud on it. Pretty much everything we run on Wiz right now. We're probably one of the first customers in the UK, and we're also a, what do you call it? We've done case studies. We've gone on conference talks with Wiz, same as Semgrep really. But what we could say is they provide really good APIs, basically same in Semgrep really. We are a developer first company. So me and Simon both come from a dev background, come from dev and DevOps background. So what we did is we wanted to be able to query Semgrep and Wiz for their data and then have them talk to each other, which is a bit ambitious if you think about it. I want these two vendors to play nice with each other, but I want to be able to get all of their data. It's kind of like asking for cake and the whole cake factory kind of thing. So that's, however, both Semgrep and Wiz provided. So they talk to each other now. We integrated Wiz with Semgrep. All of the findings you can see in the screenshot, though it's just saying anonymous repos, but it's actually real data there. You can see it does enrichment and prioritization. So you can, if you go to the Wiz code prioritization engine, it looks at all of the Semgrep findings and sends it there, and then tells you using the code to cloud engine, this container within your EKS Kubernetes has a vulnerability within this Semgrep role finding, which is awesome. Because then you can see if there is, let's say, a log4j vulnerability that you can see within your container, and that log4j vulnerability doesn't have any mitigation, you can see in Semgrep where in the code it's being used, which is awesome. Right? Like where in the code, Semgrep tells you which container Wiz tells you. And then all you have to tell to the dev is, here's your code, here's the cloud context, please help us fix this. The entire data flow gets traced back from Semgrep to Wiz and to the dev. So basically, your engine is SAST, Semgrep, Wiz, GitHub, EKS, AWS, into the squads. So that helps validation, and that really helps us, the DevSecOps, because there's only two of us who can do all of this. If you can see already in that screen, there's already a lot of findings that's getting fed. The prioritization and enrichment engine is really quite good. And findings, obviously, from Semgrep is top notch. So combine those two, can't really hardly go wrong with it. The integration, by the way, is developed by Wiz and Semgrep themselves. It's not something we develop. So
Yeah.
they,
Chris, I'm happy to send more details on that to you as well, in terms of the integration. I think this might be a good point for Pavel's question. So Pavel asked, are you using Wiz? Are you considering Wiz code or Semgrep integrated into Wiz so you can trace potential issues from in the code into your production specific containers, public exposure, etc.?
I think we've answered that part, including the public exposure. So Wiz has a capability of external attack surface, which is hopefully go GA. So you can even see which Semgrep code is publicly exposed using the Wiz external attack path. You can see the whole path all the way through.
Yeah. Got it. Cool. All right. Do you want to talk a little bit about Yikes as well? This is kind of your homegrown solution.
Yeah, so this is our dashboard. This is esure's dashboard. So what we do is we take all of the data from Semgrep, from Yikes, from Semgrep, from Wiz, from CrowdStrike, used to be Qualys as well, used to be Prisma as well. And we get all of this data, including our backstage, by the way. And then we enrich all of that data using our own algorithm. I wrote about our algorithm in our blog, but basically we know which one's publicly exposed, and we're the only ones who know where our data are, like which one's publicly exposed, which app contains our which contains our crown jewels, basically the data that we really are concerned about, customer PII, etc., and which applications are important business service. So we combine all of this context and then create Yikes. So severity 1 is basically everybody needs to jump now, we're gonna get hacked. Things like we got an RCE in a container. This container has access to a crown jewel. It's publicly exposed, and RCE and CBS says 10, and Semgrep says there's a way to exploit it, and which says there's public exploit for it. And our threat intel Rapid7 basically says there is a threat actor actively exploiting this. Basically, all the bad things combined into one. That's a severity 1. Severity 2 basically is a bit like that, but we have time to fix that within 2 weeks. 3 and 6 are noise. We're actively reducing noise, and you can see we're still working on 3, but basically we're not looking at them individually. But basically we're trying to get rid of all of the legacy systems we have, and that reduces severity 3. And we're implementing golden images as well. So every single container that runs 0 CVE containers, that reduces the severity 3. So that's more strategic. But yeah, that's our own. This is the dashboard that we present to our exec. This gives them a snapshot of how good our security or how bad our security is in a given week or day. And yeah, our execs loves this, and obviously the leads also don't want to be named as having a severity 1 or severity 2 vulnerability. That's how did we make them care, basically, from the top down. We have the bottom up thing that we showed earlier. This is the top down approach.
Brilliant. I guess, as we come to the end, wanted to just kind of get some thoughts around what's next in the AppSec journey at esure, around Semgrep, but also in general, what is esure looking at as part of their AppSec journey? What's kind of next for you guys?
We really want to play into the gamification aspect of AppSec. We're currently building so we have Yaks where we aggregated all of the data. We're basically building a front end for it that is doing a lot of gamification, and then basically we want the squads to get like experience points, XP, get like HP bars, all of those stuff. So basically, you get them to care in a different way. So you get the top down. You have to do this kind of thing because this is gonna help us improve this metric or that metric, and then you got the devs doing it because they want to do it, but also this gives them time and leverage to do it. This actually says we need to fix this, otherwise, gamification wise, we're gonna fall behind the other team. So put some competition aspect in this, which is what we want to do. We're improving our security champions program as well, improving AI assisted memories. We want them to be doing more customization. But yeah, that's what we want to do from my AppSec point of view.
Brilliant. I'll also open up for Q&A. I know there's one question that was asked at the beginning. Maybe we'll talk about that. But if anybody else has any additional questions, I know this has been very interactive, so really appreciate that. But if you have additional questions, please pop them into the question bar. Pavel, thank you for sharing that link to the Viz integration. Appreciate it. The question was, now that you have successfully implemented Semgrep across different levels of development, how have you found the adoption from developers? Is there particular success stories, particular difficulties that you can share and talk about?
So sorry, I got distracted. There's another question that came up. So the adoption, as with most things, it's kind of like start from the beginning, get your core people. We know our core people because we've been doing this for quite a while. We did the same for Wiz, we did the same for OnePassword, we did the same for any other product we've been before. We identify those key individual, we get their feedback early. They're actually part of the RP process. They help decide which product we go with. And once we got those key people in, they help you kind of like internally evangelize it, sell it basically internally, not price, but like adoption kind of thing. So that really helps us with the adoption. The communities we have in esure is really great. So you get like the Java guilds, you got the DevOps guilds, you got the front end React guilds, you got the principal engineers. That's how we got the adoption done. All of those guilds, by the way, are members of the security champions. We co-opted them. If you're a member of any guild, you're a member of the security champions. You have to join our security champions. So we jokingly say that, but basically, we're kind of like a parasite. We like get all of the good people in everywhere, and everybody's good. So anybody who's interacting with any of the guilds, they're interested, get them in. Difficulties, I would say, is so is there any difficulties? There are some things that I can't share. So let's just say every security product has its own fair share of difficulties. There are things that you misconfigure, mostly on us rather than on Semgrep. So I would say when you're setting this up internally, just make sure you talk to Nitin, you get the right SMEs on board. Otherwise, you click on something you shouldn't click beforehand. Things like that. Like when you're setting up your OIDC, you make sure you're doing the right thing. Those kinds of like simple things, right? Like make sure you get the SME with you and you're doing this internally, because let's face it, when you're doing something in the beginning, you're not an expert of it. So that's what I would say. The success stories, as you've seen, everything is going through Semgrep 100%. That's the biggest success story. That's the biggest that's the biggest KPI. Everything is scanned. Every pull request is scanned. Every piece of code is scanned. We know about it. If we see a vulnerability, we know about it. So if like a third party tells us, oh, we saw your website's vulnerable to this, yeah, we've known that 2 months ago, and they were pushing the code. So we probably have a risk acceptance somewhere that we accepted that as an issue, or there's a mitigation to it, kind of thing.
Brilliant.
Gives the power.
I know we're at the top of the hour, but if you want to very quickly answer Chris's question, I know Chris and Guru tend to be very DIY and techie like yourself. So is Yike something they can learn more about? I don't think you guys have open source Yikes, have you? Or have you written a blog about it? Or
We've done a blog about it. Part 1 is live. I'll
what I
send.
can do is I can connect Kenichi, you and Chris on the community Slack.
Yeah, sure.
I can just, Chris, if that's okay with you, I'll just connect you and Kenichi to kind of one-on-one discuss this. I think you guys will definitely hit it off, so should be fun. All right, brilliant. Any final questions before we wrap up? Otherwise, thank you guys. Oh, Sufyan is also interested. I'll create a community here, guys. Anybody else, let us know. All right, any other final questions before we wrap up the call? Otherwise,
You do have to mention your other upcoming thing, don't you?
oh, sorry, yeah, I forgot. Yeah, if you found this useful, there's another session I'm doing end of August around metrics for effective security leadership. This is kind of based on interviews with lots of different security leaders that me and the team have done. So please join us for that. But again, thank you so much for joining and this interactive session. I think it was very helpful. And Saman, did you have a question? Sorry, please.
I think he wants to be part of that community as well.
Okay, all right. I'll add you to that as well. No worries. All right. Thank you guys. Have a great day. Thank you for joining. Bye.